So, hi, good day everyone. Welcome to the course unit 2 of our subject in CRDI332, Drug Education and Vice Control. So, the topic for our course unit 2 is the historical development of drugs. So, let's start. So, the topics to be discussed today is all about, so what is drug? History of drugs, early history of medicine, beginnings of modern pharmaceutical industry, and the early forms of drug abuse. So, let's start. So, first, what is drug? Diba? So, what comes into your mind when we say drugs? Siyempre, isipin nyo, gamot ma'am. Anything na iniinom para gumaling. Yun ba? So, what is drug ba? So, a drug, as defined, is a chemical substance used as a medicine. Okay? Or in making medicines. Pwede siyang medicine or also, pwede rin siyang a substance, chemical substance, for us to in making medicine, sa mga paggawa ng gamot. Which affects what? The body and mind and have the potential for abuse. So, ibig sabihin, ang drug is any chemical substance that could possibly affect or has an effect with our body and mind. Always remember that a drug is sometimes a form of medicines or sometimes it is an essential part or essential element in making medicine. So, without an advice or prescription from a physician or a doctor, drugs can be harmful. Diba? Kung wala tayong yung mga prescriptions coming from the doctors, ang pag-take ng herbs magiging harmful or dangerous ating lahat. So, hundreds of pure chemicals have been developed, plants, and put into pills, capsules, or liquid medicines. Diba? We have different forms of drugs. So, kung gagamitin lang natin yung drug ng walang prescription or wala sa tamang ayos, doon sa tamang tamang usage niya, therefore, it could cause dangerous or danger to ourselves. Also, 'di ba, kasi nga inaccept natin na pag nag-take tayo ng drug, it has a effect in our body and mind. So, there are also two forms of drugs. So, we have the natural and the synthetic. So, anong pinagkaiba ng natural and synthetic? The natural drugs include the natural plant, diba? Leaves, flowering tops, resin, hashish, opium, and marijuana. So, while the synthetic drugs are produced by the clandestine laboratories. So, ito yung mga natural, diba? Kasi, ito yung mismong kinukuha lang natin sa ating bakuran, okay? Ibig sabihin, hindi pa sila dumaan ng anumang chemical process, okay? Or nag-undergo ng process. Yung mga tinatawag nating synthetic or artificial, ito na yung naka-capsule, naka-tablet, or even yung mga naka-syrup na. So, sabi nga niya dito, the synthetic drugs are produced by clandestine laboratories, which include those drugs that are controlled by the law. Siyempre, di ba, meron niyang passage muna sa law, because they are used in the medical practice. So, physicians prescribe them and are purchased in the legitimate outlets like drugstores. So, pupunta rin tayo din sa topic ng mga legalizations ng pag-use ng drugs. Okay? And tsaka yung mga different forms. So, this is just an introduction about what is drug. So, what is drug again? So, drug also helps a person body and mind function better during an illness. Diba? Kapag may sakit ka, ano agad ang pumapasok sa utak mo? Ay, iinom ako ng gamot. So, but drugs have to be taken correctly. Always remember that the drugs should be taken correctly in order to do these things. So, the wrong drug or the wrong amount of the right one can make an illness worse. So, destroy blood cells, damage the body, and many cause death. Diba? Okay lang gumamit ng drug para gamutin ang sakit natin. Pero, if we use drug in a wrong manner or in a wrong way, baka mas lalo lang mag-worse yung ating sakit. So, for this reason, most drugs can be legally purchased only with doctor's written order. Ano nga tawag yun dun sa ating doctor's written order? Yung prescription. 'Di ba? Yung reseta na alam nyo na hindi nyo mabasa-basa minsan. So, only a medical doctor can prescribe medicinal drugs. Wala nang iba. Doktor lang pong pwedeng magbigay niyan. So, these drugs could be dangerous and must be used with care. According to the doctor's prescription, he gives direction on how much medicine to use. So, The practice of taking drugs without proper medicinal supervision is called the non-medical use of drugs or drug abuse. So, for example, ginamit mo yung drugs na yan nang walang prescription galing kay doctor, 'di ba? Ang tawag natin diyan is non-medical use of drugs or yung tinatawag nating drug abuse. Kasi parang misuse na yan eh. Misuse na yung pag-take natin ng drugs. So, next. So, let's go with the history of drugs. So, the word drug taken from the French word drogue, okay, which means dry herb, or strongly suggests that earliest drugs were taken out from the plant sources. Siyempre, noong unang panahon, wala pa naman talaga tayong tablet syrup dyan eh. Ang meron lang tayo is yung mga herbs, 'di ba? Napapanood nyo naman yan sa mga telenovela. So, kung ano man yung pinagkala nyo nga, parang mga pang-albularyo, di ba? Yung mga pinagdidik-dik-dik nila, lahat herbs lang tayo noon. So, the use of medicinal plants dates back not only to human civilization, but to ancient people also. So, plants have been crucial in sustaining human health and well-being of mankind. So, noon pa naman, kahit nga sa Bible, gumagamit na tayo ng mga ganyan, herbs as drug, di ba? So, earliest people used to treat diseases by some unconventional methods using plants. Okay? Natural yan. Animal products, sometimes, galing yung drugs nila sa mga produced by the animal and minerals. Of them, plants were given priority. So, the World Asian system of medicine, example, the Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, and Greek medicine, despite having wider differences in their principle of treatment, agree upon the point that disease is due to imbalance with the constituents of the body and that the aim of treatment is to restore the balance with the help of herbs. So, kahit nang una pa naman, during ancient time, the Chinese medicine or even the Greek medicines, they use this type of, yan, mga Ayurvedic ang tawag dyan eh. So, yung mga herbs nila. So, kasi, they use drug, sabi nga nila, at upon the point that yung isang disease or yung isang illness, it is due to imbalance of the constituents of the body or there is something abnormality in your body. And we use drugs or the herbs na yan in order for us to restore that imbalance na nangyari sa ating katawan. Okay po? So, early history of medicine. So, drug discovery and development has a long history and dates back to the early days of human civilization. In those ancient times, drugs were not just used for physical remedies, but were also associated with the religious and spiritual healing. So, ginagamit din nila yun as for, di ba yung may mga alay-alay sila? Or sabi nga, associated with religious and spiritual healing. But, dati pa yun. Part of the history. So, sages or religious leaders were often the administrator of drugs. Madalas noon, ang healer din is kung sino yung mga leader ng ating mga religions noon. So, the early drug or folk medicines were derived mainly from plant products and supplemented by animal materials and minerals. So, pinaka talaga sources noon is yung mga plants. Then, sumunod lang yung mga animal products and then minerals. So, these drugs were most probably discovered through a combination of trial and error. Yes. Kasi wala pa naman pong scientific study nun. So, yung mga ginagamit nilang herbs na yan, trial and error lang sila. Experimentation, diba? And observation of human and animal reaction as a result of ingesting such product. Isipin nyo, napakahirap ng buhay noon, no? Ganun sila, trial and error. So, what if yung na-ingest nila is lason? Eh, di yung na-trial and error nila, agad-agad mamamatay na. So, ganun pa lang kasi nila tinitignan or napag-aaralan ng mga drugs, no? Yung mga different herbs. So, trial and error, experimentation. Next, so, although these folk medicines probably originated independently in different civilizations, there are numbers of similarities, for example, in the use of the same herbs for treating similar diseases. Kahit na yung mga different types of medicines natin, syempre, iba't ibang lugar, may similarity din siya ng, for example, sa Philippines, meron tayong alugbati. Sa ibang bansa, meron din silang parang ganong plant, pero hindi alugbati. So, parang same herb din siya for treating similar diseases. So, this is likely to be contribution by Asian traders. 'Di ba? Siyempre, nagkakaroon tayo ng kalakal, 'di ba? Kalakalan, who in their travels might have assisted the spread of medical knowledge. So, folk medicines were the only available treatments until recent times. So, drug discovery and development started to follow scientific techniques in the late 1800s. So, next. So, after World War I, ano nangyari? So, the modern pharmaceutical industry came into being. So, the drug discovery and development following scientific principles was firmly established. So, hindi na lang sila nag-base dun sa trial and error by ingesting, tas titignan nila ano yung magiging effect. So, after World War I, nagkaroon na sila ng modern pharmaceutical industry to know or pag-aralan pa yung mga different types of drugs. So, from then on, more and more drugs were discovered, tested, synthesized in large-scale manufacturing plants as opposed to the extraction of drug products from natural sources in relatively small batch quantities. So, although pharmaceutical drugs are now widely used worldwide, many ethnic cultures have retained their own folk medicine. So, in certain instances, these folk medicines exist side by side and are complemented by pharmaceutical drugs. So, kahit marami ng, pharmaceutical drugs ngayon na nagpo-produce ng mga makabagong gamot, still, hindi pa rin po mawawala yung tinatawag nating folk medicines. Diba? Kahit until today, for example, may inuubo yung bata. Okay? Ang gamot, bili ka ng ano ba yung gamit lagundi, 'di ba? Lagundi extract. Pero kung yung gagawin natin yung folk medicine, kuha ka lang ng oregano diyan sa bakuran mo, 'di ba? Pwede nang mawala yung tawag dito, yung ubo ng anak mo. So, until nowadays, kahit naman meron na tayong modern pharmaceutical industry, always remember, hindi pa rin naman nawawala yung folk medicine na yan. Yung mga herbs natin. Kasi, proven and tested naman na yung kanilang effects sa ating katawan when nagkakaroon tayo ng illnesses. So, let's start with the Chinese medicine. So, ano ba yung sa may Chinese medicine? Ayan. So, Chinese medicine, meron silang tinatawag na TCM. What is TCM? Traditional Chinese medicine. It is believed to have originated in the times of legendary Emperor Sheng Nong in 3500 BC. So, the dynasty system and meticulous recording have helped to preserve the TCM scripts of the old China. Ito. Ayan. Ito yung tinatawag nating traditional Chinese medicine. So, nag-start siya nung kay Emperor Sheng Nong. Okay po. So, ito, mga Ayurvedic yan. Next. Egyptian medicine. Ano naman sa Egypt? So, ancient papyrus provided written records of early Egyptian medical knowledge. Yung papyrus, parang ito yung documents nila. So, the Ebers papyrus from around 3000 BC provided 877 prescriptions and recipes for internal medicine, eye and skin problems, and gynecology. So, another record from Kahun papyrus of around 1800 BC detailed treatments for gynecological problems naman. So, medications were based mainly on herbal products as castor oil, fennel, senna, thyme, aloe, and garlic. So, yun yung mga ginagamit nila doon sa Egypt. Yung papyrus, it is a type of documentation nila. Okay po. So, ayan. Ang focus ng Egyptian medicine is sa gynecology. Eye and skin, sabi niya, in gynecology. Next, we have the Indian medicine. Ano ba sa Indian medicine? So, the Indian folk medicine called Ayurvedic medicine, okay po, can be traced back 3,000 to 5,000 years and was practiced by the Brahmin sages of ancient times. So, the treatments were set out in the sacred writings called Vedas. Ito. Vedas po ang tawag dito. Diba? So, the material medica are extensive and most are based on the herbal formulation. So, some of the herbs have appeared in Western medicines such as cardamom and cinnamon. Who would have thought that cinnamon is a drug? So, Susruta, a physician in the 4th century AD, described the use of henbane. Okay, ito po yung henbane as anti-venom for snake bites. Si Susruta, nag-start siya kay Indian medicine. Diba sa India yon yung parang may sumasayaw na cobra. So, dahil madaming snakes doon, ang nangyari, natuklasan ni Mr. Susruta, itong si Henbane, as anti-venom for snake bites. Okay? Ito ang tawag ay Vedas. Okay? And ang tawag nila sa folk medicine nila is Ayurvedic medicine. So, that is India. Next. Ano naman to? Greek medicine. So, some of Greek medical ideas were derived from Egyptians, Babylonians, and even the Chinese and Indians. So, gumagamit sila ng castor oil. Castor oil was prescribed as laxative. Okay, ano ba yung laxative? Alam niyo ba yung laxative? Kapag pampapupo, diba? Pagpadumi, ginagamit nila yan. So, that is a Greek medicine. Next. Roman medicine, ano naman dito? So, as great administrators, the Romans instituted hospital, although these were used mainly to cater to the needs of the military. Nagkaroon sila ng hospital, pero ang kinikater lang nila yung sa mga military. So, through this work, organized medical care was made available. So, the Romans also extended the pharmacy practice of the Greeks. So, nag-adapt din sila kay Greeks. So, this is Dioscorides, diba? And Galen, ayan, were two noted physicians in the Roman days. So, sila yung dalawa yung kilala noong Roman days in a Roman medicine. So, Dioscorides contains description of treatments based on 80% plant, diba? 10% animal, and 10% mineral products. So, pinagsama-sama niya. So, yun ang ginagawa ni yun ang nangyari sa Roman medicine. They have the two great physician. It is the Dioscorides and Galen. Next. Asclepius, the Greek god of medicine. Ayan. So, in Greek mythology, Asclepius, or the god of medicine, studied medicine under Chiron. So, he excelled over Chiron, and his medical skills were reputed to be able to bring back the dead. So, ang nangyari, si Asclepius na yan, okay po, tinuruan lang siya, or nag-aral lang siya under kay Chiron. But, over and over, mas naging magaling pa siya kay Chiron. Into point na parang yung kahit namatay, kaya niyang buhayin. So, this incurred the wrath of Pluto, the god of the underworld. So, the envy of other gods. So, they combined to Zeus, who also thought that he alone should have a power of life and death. Zeus slew Asclepius with a thunderbolt. So, nakikita nyo ba to? Ayan. Ayan, 'di ba? Meron din siya dito, itong isang rod and then merong snake. Okay. Ganito kasi 'yan, 'di ba? Yan talaga ang true symbol po ng medicine. Yung isang rod and then merong snake. Yan talaga ang totoong symbol ng medicine. Ayan, 'di ba? World Health Organization. Ito yung rod ni tinatawag ni Asclepius, so the Greek god of medicine. Okay po? Itong nakikita nyo na to, 'di ba? Nagko-confuse kasi, kahit mag-search kayo ng mga ibang mga medicines, diba? Ang ginagamit nilang medicine symbol ito, which is ang tinatawag natin is si caduceus. Okay? Pero mali. Kasi ang tamang symbol ng medicine is ito, yung rod ni Asclepius. Okay? The confusion starts with the use of caduceus and rod of Asclepius. So, the caduceus is a symbol of Hermes, of Mercury in Greek and Roman mythology. Caduceus symbol, itong symbol na to is identified with thieves, merchants, and messengers, and Mercury is said to be a patron of thieves and outlaws, not a desirable protector of physician. So, pang merchants talaga itong si caduceus. Okay, itong symbol na to. So, itama po natin yung mga paniniwala ng iba. Di ba, madalas makita natin ganito yung symbol ng medicine nila, which is wrong. Ang tamang symbol po ng medicine is ito, na ginagamit nga ng World Health Organization, no? Di ba? Ito yung rod of Asclepius. Okay po? Since si Asclepius is the Greek god of medicine. Kahit i-research nyo, or kahit tumingin kayo sa mga minsan ito yung ginagamit nilang symbol, which is wrong. Okay po, ito ang tama. Next. So, drug discovery and development in the Middle Ages. So, in medieval medicine. So, from around 400, AD 400 to 1500. So, witnessed decline of the Roman influence. So, this was also the time when plagues scourged many parts of Europe. Plagues, ito yung mga pandemic, okay? Yung mga sakit na nakakahawa. So, diseases such as leprosy, ayan, diba? Smallpox, tuberculosis, and scabies were rampant. So, nung medieval time, nung Middle Ages, ayan, naging bloom yung mga plagues na yan or yung mga nakakahawa. So, many millions of people succumb to these diseases. So, madami yung mga naapektuhan to this kind of diseases. So, the early church, ano naman dito? So, there are some references to herbs in the Bible. Sabi nga sa inyo, di ba? Merong mga herbs yan in the Bible. However, the church's main contribution to medicines is the preservation and transcription of Greek medical manuscript and treatise. Okay po. Next. We also have the Arabian medicine. Ano naman to? So, through trade with many regions, the Arabians learned and extended medical knowledge. So, their major contribution is perhaps the knowledge of medical preparation and distillation methods. Ayan, ito yung distillation methods, yung parang pinapakuluan. Diba? Although the techniques were probably derived from the practice of alchemists. So, sa Arabian medicine, mas kilala sa kanila yung pinapakuluan. Distilled method. Next, so foundation of current drug discovery and development. So, in the Renaissance period, it laid the foundation of scientific thoughts in medicinal preparations and medical treatment. So, there were many advances. Ayan. So, nung nagkaroon na tayo ng Renaissance period, ayan, nag-start na tayo mag-aral sa mga biology and, diba? Anatomy, physiology, surgery, and medical treatments including public health care, hygiene, and sanitation. Dito tayo nag-start ng Renaissance period. So, unti-unti, nagkakaroon na tayo ng scientific method in developing the medicine or yung science natin about the medicine. Next. So, beginnings of modern pharmaceutical industry. So, despite the advances made in the 1800s, there were only a few drugs available in treating diseases at the beginning of 1900s. So, una na dyan is yung pag-discover ng penicillin. So, penicillin in 1928 was discovered by Alexander Fleming. Okay? So, it discovered na tinatawag nating penicillium mold. O, it was an active against Staphylococcus bacteria. So, Ernst Chain rediscovered this fact some 10 years later when he collaborated with Howard Florey. So, ayan. Na-discover po ang, who would have thought na ang penicillin pala ay nag-start sa mold. Diba? So, sino nga ang naka-discover? Si Alexander Fleming. So, by 1944, large-scale production of penicillin was available through the work of Howard Florey and Ernst Chain. So, sila yung naging katulong ni Alexander Fleming para maging kilala sa penicillin. So, this work foreshadowed the commencement of biotechnology where microorganisms were used to produce drug products. So, a description of discovery and large-scale manufacturing of penicillin is given in the development of penicillin in the 1930s. So, Howard Florey and Ernst Chain worked with a team of scientists at Oxford University in Britain. Diba, kilalang-kilala natin si penicillin as parang antibiotic. Diba? Agad-agad. O, pag nasugat siya, dinan mo yung penicillin. Diba? So, Ernst Chain discovered an earlier paper by Alexander Fleming on the antibacterial properties of penicillin. So, the Florey-Chain team's investigation show that penicillin, ano ginagawa niya? Interferes with the cell wall of bacteria. So, nilalaban na yung mga bacteria. Bacteria cells ruptured instead of continuing to grow. So, kapag merong bacteria, sabi ko pag nasugat sila, minsan nilalagyan nila ng penicillin. Parang antibiotic, diba? So, bacterial cells ruptured instead of continuing to grow. So, kapag nalagyan ng penicillin yon, imbes na dumadami yung bacteria, ang penicillin ginagawa, pinapatay niya yung bacteria. So, in 1938, their animal test on 8 mice, ibig sabihin, gumamit sila ng 8 daga, given a little dose of infectious bacteria, showed stunning results. So, binigyan nila ng bacteria yung mga daga na yon, and then, binigyan nila ng penicillin. Therefore, napatunayan nila na yon. Si penicillin is okay siya sa pag-fight back ng mga bacteria. So, the 4 mice with penicillin survived, 4 controls with no medications died. So, ginawa nila yung 4, or yung, di ba, 8, nilagyan nila ng bacteria, and then yung 4, nilagyan nila ng penicillin. Yung 4, hindi nila binigyan ng penicillin. So, anong naging result? Yung 4 na buhay. Yung 4 na daga, namatay. So, ganun pinatunayan yung kay penicillin. Next. So, early forms of drug abuse. Ayan. So, the use of chemical substances that alter the physiological and psychological functions dated back to the Old Stone Age. So, dati pa naman, Old Stone Age pa. So, nung nagkaroon tayo ng Egyptian relics, diba? It is a form from 3500 BC, depict the use of opium as an analgesic or painkiller. Ito yung opium. Okay? Drug talaga si opium, nakakagaling siya. Bakit siya nagiging drug abuse? Ibig sabihin, parang, di ba sabi nga niya dun sa una, sabi, if magiging useful ang pag-create ng drugs as a medicine, basta nasa right way. Ngayon, if we will use drugs without prescriptions, di ba, without proper medications, therefore, ang tawag na dun is the non-medical use of drugs or yung tinatawag nating drug abuse. So, dati kasi ginagamit itong opium. Ayan. Opium as analgesic or painkiller. Ayan po. Pero, dahil nakita na painkiller siya, parang inabuse po nila yung, kahit hindi na sila hindi na masakit yung nararamdaman nila, nagtitake pa rin sila ng opium. So, nagkakaroon ng drug abuse that will form into the drug addiction. So, the Incas of South America were known to have use of cocaine at least 5,000 years naman. So, after naman kay opium, sa Incas of South America naman, or sa South America, ang naging kilala doon is yung pag-use naman ng cocaine. Ayan. Ang cocaine is na-derive dun sa mga coca leaves. Anyway, as we continue this discussion for the whole semester, makikita niyo yung different drugs kung saan sila nagmumula. So, I'm so excited to tell you that kasi kahit nung time ko na nag-aaral ako about drugs, natutulala ako na, okay, dun pala nang galing yun. So, early forms of drug abuse, we have the cannabis. Diyos ko, alam na alam nyo yan, di ba? MJ, sabi nga nila. So, cannabis, it is the hemp plant from which marijuana and hashish are derived. So, also has a 5,000 years history. Ito talaga, yung mismong puno na tinatawag nating marijuana, ang tawag doon, cannabis. Okay, kapag na-process na yan, naging dried leaves, ang tawag niya ay marijuana or sometimes hashish. Cannabis po yan, ha? So, next, since antiquity, people have cultivated a variety of drugs for religious, medicinal, and social purposes. So, nagkaroon din tayo ng modern drug abuse. So, syempre, magsimula doon sa mga herbs na yan, yung mga plants. Nagkaroon din tayo ng tinatawag na modern drug abuse. So, modern drug abuse began with the use of drugs for medicinal purposes. Yung mga drug abuse, yung mga pills na yan, yung mga tablets, una, ang ginagamit nila is for medicinal use until sa na-abuse na siya. So, by the 19th century, the two components of opium, which were derived from opium poppy, were identified and given the names morphine and codeine. So, balik lang tayo, di ba? Si opium, ayan, okay, sabi nga dyan, painkiller siya or analgesic. So, noong 19th century, nagkaroon ng two components yan or pinag-aralan pa nila ng maayos hanggang sa naka-form sila ng modern drugs which is itong morphine and codeine. Okay po? Morphine and codeine. O, tandaan nyo, si morphine and codeine galing yan kay opium poppy. Ayan. Ayan. So, ito si morphine, painkiller din yan, and then ito si codeine. Itong si codeine, alam ko, for cup purposes yan kapag inuubo, ginagamit nila. Next. So, ignorant of addictive properties of these drugs, physicians use them to treat a wide variety of human illnesses. So, ginamit nila yan kasi nga, ginawa nilang modern drugs. Ayan. So great was their popularity that they found the way into almost all patient and medication used for pain relief. Okay po? And were even incorporated in soothing syrup for babies. Ito yon yung codeine. So, ginagamit nila ang morphine as, tawag ngayon, pain reliever since na-derive siya kay opium. Okay, tandaan nyo, ang dalawang drugs na na-derive from opium poppy is the morphine and codeine. So, si morphine and codeine, ito na yung mga modern drugs natin. Next, so early forms of drug abuse. So, during the World War I and II, the use of injectable morphine, ayan, to ease the pain of battle casualties was extensive that morphine addiction among veterans are to be known as the soldier's disease. Ayan. Kasi alam niyo, kung nanonood kayo ng mga gera, diba? May times doon na kapag nabaril siya, gagawin nila meron lang itatarak sa kanya para makalimutan niya yung pain. So, during World War, naging addictive po yung mga soldier na yan sa ating morphine. Kasi nga, to ease the pain na, for example, nagbabarilan sila, nasugat sila, i-inject na lang nila yung morphine na yan para hindi nila maramdaman yung sakit. Hanggang sa, hindi nila nakita yung effect ng morphine na yan, nakaka-addict siya. So, by the time the medical profession and the public recognize how addictive, diba, morphine was. So, its use had reached epidemic proposition. Then, in 1898, so the Bayer Drug Company in Germany introduced a new opiate, another form of opium or another derivatives from opium, diba? Supposedly a non-addictive substitute for morphine and codeine. So it came to under the trade name called heroin. Yet it proved to be much more addictive. Ang nangyari kasi ganito, diba? Again, ang si opium poppy, okay? Si opium poppy or opium poppy plant, known siya as analgesic or painkiller. So, si opium poppy plant kasi kasama pa siya sa herbs, 'di ba? Ito siya, 'di ba? Herbs pa siya. So, nung nagkaroon tayo ng modern development about drugs, yan, pharmaceutical drugs, na-develop nila si morphine and codeine. Okay. So, si opium nakapag dalawang derivatives, si morphine and codeine, which is ginamit natin as a modern drug. So, si morphine at si codeine, ito syrup. Si codeine ang use niya para sa mga babies, dun sa mga umuubo. Si morphine naman, which is tablet, ang use niya is to ease the pain or pain reliever. Okay po. Ngayon, habang tumatagal, kasi yung paggamit ng morphine and codeine, nakita nila nakaka-addict yun. So, parang hinahanap ng body, ng immune system ng body. So, nung na-discover nila yan, 'di ba? Nagkaroon nga tayong tinatawag na injectable morphine. Ayan. Na-addict din yung mga diyan. Maganda siya as pain reliever yung morphine. Kaso nga lang, merong silang addictive parts or portion na kapag lagi nilang ginagamit yun, na-addict yung mismong taong gumagamit doon. So, nung 1898, itong si Bayer Drug Company in Germany, nag-produce siya ng another opiate. At ang tawag doon ay si heroin. Akala nitong si Bayer Drug Company in Germany, okay? Ang akala niya, kapag itong na-produce niyang si heroin is hindi non-addictive siya dapat. Okay? Non-addictive. Pero, ang lumabas po na katotohanan, mas malakas pa pala ang epekto ni heroin kesa kay morphine. Diba? So, nakita nyo? Si heroin, yung akala nila na si heroin ay magiging non-addictive, naging pa siyang mas addictive kay morphine and codeine. So, another early forms of drug abuse. So, okay na tayo kay opium, kay morphine, codeine, and heroin. Now, let's go with cocaine. So, when cocaine, which was isolated in the coca leaf in 1869, appeared on the international drug scene. So, it was used for medical purposes. Lahat naman, dapat for medical purposes lang. Kaso nga, nagkakaroon ng abuse eh. So, its popularity spread soon and it was used in other products. So, nung lumabas ang cocaine, na-discover nila, dapat gagamitin lang yan for medical purposes. Pero, habang naging popular nga yan, so ginamit din nila sa ibang products. So, a variety of gratonics and most of famous of all, Coca-Cola, di ba? Which was made with coca until 1903. Isipin mo yun, di ba? Dati, isa sa mga main ingredient ng ating Coke na iniinom is yung cocaine. Siguro minimal dose lang naman. So, after kay cocaine, nagkaroon tayo ng abuse of marijuana. Saan nga yung galing yung marijuana? Anong plant yon? It is the cannabis. So, abuse of marijuana began to arouse public concern during the 1930s. So, in other foreign countries, because marijuana use was associated with groups outside the social mainstream, petty criminals, jazz musicians, bohemian, public outcry for its regulation aroused. So, despite the law, the popularity of marijuana continue. Okay, meron siyang parang counterpart ang marijuana. Ano yon? Ito yung Valium, diba? Librium, LCD, amphetamines, and many other public became increasingly aware of the use of this marijuana subconstituent. Nakita nyo po? So, ayan, si Valium. Ano bang ginagawa ni marijuana? Meron bang nakatry niyan sa inyo? Diba? So, same effect lang yan. Don't worry, lahat ng drugs na binanggit ngayon, makikilala natin yan as we go on with our topic. Okay? So, for today, yun muna ang ating topic. Next. So, yun lang. Ganun lang ang topic natin. That it is just on history. So, before I end this topic, I just want you to end an quote, diba? All medicines are drugs, but not all drugs are medicine. Do you agree? Bakit kaya ganon? All medicine are drugs, but not all drugs are medicine. Tama! Lahat ng medicine, pwede sabihin natin siyang drugs. Kasi, ang drugs, sabi nga natin, it is a form of medicine. Diba? Pero, hindi lahat ng drugs are medicine. Bakit? Sabi dun sa definition ng una, sabi ng drugs, it is a chemical substance. So, anything na chemical substance, ano yon? Lason. Chemical substance yon, therefore drug din yon. Medicine ba siya? Hindi. Diba? Do you agree? Diba? All medicines are drugs. Lahat ng medicines, drugs yan. Pero hindi lahat ng drugs ay nakakabuti sa atin as a medicine. Lalo na kung meron siyang addictive purposes or poisonous substance. So, yun lang. So, if you have any questions about our topic, please write it down and we can discuss it later on sa ating Google Meet session. So, please review and please take down notes kasi magkakaroon tayo ng graded recitation. So, I hope you understand and you learned for somehow in this discussion. So, thank you.